I think my first real exposure to death was when my pet hamster Hamstring died on the way to my grandfather's house. And before that, I had sort of had a vague understanding of why my mom was so upset that my grandmother had died, but like Hamstring dying was real. Like that was right in front of me. And I don't remember crying right away, but I think my grandfather could sense that something was up because we spent a lot of that trip together in his garden. And he had a really beautiful, expansive garden. But I just did not care. I think just with grief and just, I don't know, 10-year-old boy distractions, like, I think like that was just, it was just all exasperated by the fact that he was just kept trying to get me to weed and mulch and compost, and it's just like, I didn't want to deal with any of it. But we would talk. You know, we'd have as much of a conversation as a 60-something-year-old man and a 10-year-old boy could have. And at some point, just start talking about Hamstring dying in this sort of very cut and dry manner, not thinking much of it. And then I just started crying. I felt just sort of like all the grief and the sadness and the confusion and it's just everything just sort of started welling up, and it just was all sort of coming to a head when my grandfather grabs me by the shoulders, and in what initially felt like sort of a bumbling effort to console me, he just sort of turns me these tomatoes that we were putting compost on, and he points to them and he says, "Did I ever tell you how Grandma thought of compost? Like how she made sense of it?" I sort of solemnly shook my head. And then he said something to the effect of, well, one of the things she requested was that she be buried with tomato seeds so that her body could compost them. Which I know that sounds strange, but the way she saw it, compost is the transferer of spirit. It takes the beauty and character of something that has died and turns it into energy for a new generation of living things. I want to be a part of these tomatoes the same way the tomatoes I ate are a part of me. After we said our piece, I buried your gerbil with some flower seeds so that its beauty and its character would be imbued into these roses. I guarantee you, next time you come back, those are going to be big and perky and ready to be put in some water. A couple months went by and we go back to my grandfather's, and after we get in and give each other hugs and stuff like that, he's just got this big ear to ear grin on his face, and he says, "Close your eyes." And when I opened them, he had the rose that Hamstring grew in his hand. And I dried that rose, and I keep it in between gardening books that he gave me to this day.